What's going on, everybody? David here, back with another video. So today we're going to do a stimulus package, stimulus check update, and we're going to talk about a few different things. We're going to talk about that 48-hour deadline. There's been some clarification when it comes to that, so we'll talk about that. We're going to talk about the stimulus package, the key sticking points. We're going to talk about what Nancy Pelosi has major problems with. So we'll talk about that. We're going to talk a little bit more about the language, because I talked a little bit about that yesterday, but we're going to talk about the language and why that means something when it comes to negotiating and creating these bills. There's a reason why they're talking about the language. So we're gonna talk a little bit more about that. Then we're gonna talk about the Senate. So the Senate will be voting on a skinny bill this week, and so we'll talk about what they're going to do on Tuesday, and then we'll talk about what they're planning on doing on Wednesday. But first off, if you guys can do me a favor, please hit that like button. It does help with the YouTube algorithm. Also, please subscribe to the channel. Hit that little bell notification. That way you'll get notified anytime we put out a video. All right, let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the 48-hour deadline. So we didn't really know, because they talked about this 48-hour deadline on Saturday. Nancy Pelosi mentioned it on Sunday. So we weren't sure. Does it start Saturday? Does it start Sunday? When does it end, basically, is what we want to know. And so the clarification is that by the end of the day tomorrow, Tuesday, that's when this deadline will end. Now, this deadline is just set. So if we can get something done within this 48-hour period, then we will be able to at least get something signed before the election. But if the 48-hour period goes by and we still don't have a deal, well, then we're going to have to wait until after the election. So that's pretty much what this 48-hour deadline is for. So we'll have to see where it goes. Some have said that, you know what, this is just Nancy Pelosi saying something it's not going to happen, but she's just putting this deadline out there just to say, well, you know, I gave them a deadline, but they didn't come through. So we'll have to see where it goes. And I mean, at this point, I've been saying this for the last couple of weeks. At this point, I don't see anything happening before the election, and we're not going to receive a stimulus check before the election. That's for sure. So this is one of those situations where we're probably going to see something happen after the election, because there's some key sticking points that we're going to talk about right now. I don't really see them coming to the table and getting all this situated and getting a vote this week. I don't see it happening. I really don't. So we'll have to follow it, and that's why you want to subscribe to the channel, because I will be following it. Hit that little bell notification. You're going to get notified, so you'll know if there are any changes. But at this point, I really can't see. We're talking about the government here. I can't see them pushing this through really fast. Okay, so now let's talk about the stimulus package, the key sticking points. All right, so the first thing is the testing language. So, and Nancy Pelosi talked about this yesterday. She was interviewed and she was talking about the language. And like I said, we're going to go over some key problems as far as she outlines the exact language that she's talking about that she doesn't like. But the testing language, that's one thing. The tax credit for families. Now, this is something that's big, because for middle-class families, a lot of middle-class families, they really look forward to having these tax credits. And so she's talking about that. Childcare is another issue, another key sticking point. State and local funding, that's another sticking point, and that's been a sticking point for a while now. And they're getting closer, though. They are getting closer. The Republicans have come up to $300 billion, and the Democrats are about 400 plus billion. So we're not looking. They're not too far apart when it comes to state and local funding. Let's hope that works out, because states, they really need the money now. They really do, and all states. I don't like hearing this blue state, red state. I mean, if you are the president of the United States, you represent the whole United States. And so you should be funding the whole United States, and all these different states some states are doing better. Some states are not doing so well. It depends on how the coronavirus affected the different states. So we'll see where it goes when it comes to that, but at least they're close when it comes to that money. And maybe you can start with the $300 billion, and then if you need additional funding, then you can do another bill to do that. I know they don't want to do piecemeal, but $300 billion is very close to the $400 billion that the Democrats want. So if this is one of those situations, you get the $300 billion right now, that way states can start paying their employees and not having to do furloughs and layoffs and stuff like that. I think that would be a good thing. All right. The census, that's another thing. That's another sticking point that they're talking about. All right. Now let's talk about this language. Now we keep hearing this language. Nancy Pelosi saying the language, they're changing the language. We don't like that. And it does go a long way as far as language. You can use that in order to not do things, but have people think that you're going to do things. So let's talk a little bit about some of that stuff. So shall and may. So Nancy Pelosi is saying that they're changing the bill from keywords from shall to may. So if you shall do something, that means you are going to do it. If you may do something, that means you can do it, but you don't have to do it. Other language that Nancy Pelosi was talking about is requirement to recommendation. So if you change it from a requirement, if it's required, that means you have to do it, to a recommendation. We recommend that you do this. I recommend that you come into work today. No, it's required that you come into work. It's a big difference, right? The other thing, strategic plan to strategy. So to have they've been talking about this for a while. So we want a national plan when it comes to COVID-19 and how to address some of the issues. We want a national plan. A strategic plan is what they're talking about. But if you change that wording to a strategy, well, you can have a variety of different strategies, and you don't have to have a strategic plan. You can just say, you know what, this is our strategy, and you can change your strategy. But if you have a strategic plan, I mean, I guess you could change a strategic plan, but it's a little more detailed when it comes down to it. So those are the things that they're talking about when it comes to language. Nancy Pelosi is really big on the language, and to a certain extent, I can agree with her when it comes to that, because you need to have something that's understood, right? The communication is a big thing. And if you say, well, you didn't say I had to do this, you just said, you know, that you may do this, so I'm not going to do it. And the money is not going to go to where we thought it was going to go. So I do think it's a big deal when it comes to the language. And we're getting a lot of information that we probably never even thought about before. But when it comes to legislators, yes, they know this stuff because they do it over and over and over again, and they know how to get around that system. So they know if we're going to fund something, if we say may, then guess what? We don't have to do it. Okay, so now let's talk about the Senate. So the Senate will be voting on a skinny bill this week. And so on Tuesday, they're gonna vote on PPP funding. And then on Wednesday, they're going to vote on an overall skinny bill. Now, the skinny bill is not going to have stimulus checks in it, but it will have things like enhanced unemployment. I think it's going to be at $300 per week. And it's going to have some other funding, some funding for testing and things like that. So we'll have to see where it goes. It's going to be like the same skinny bill that they introduced on the Senate floor a month ago, and it's probably going to have the same result. I don't see any Democrats coming over and voting for the skinny bill. Matter of fact, the Democrats in the Senate have already said that they're not on board for this. So you'll get at most 53 votes. You need 60 to make it filibuster proof, so there can't be opened up for debate. So I don't see it going anywhere. I really don't. So that's all I have for you guys today. Let me know what you think about all this stuff. Hopefully this we'll see what happens in this 48 hours. So we do have until the end of the day tomorrow, and I'll be putting out videos. I'm going to put out a video later today where we look at Mark Meadows. We'll do a reaction video to his press conference that he had earlier today. But that's all I have for you guys. Let me know what you guys think down below. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe for more. Hit that little bell notification. That way you get notified. And I'll talk to you in the next one. Bye.